Chapter 246 Eternal Ruin Outpost. Since you already know, I won't continue talking, Cade said. I would register you first. Can I have your token? Cade asked. Although most tokens wouldn't work here, it is still the Ethereum Realm Universal Identification ID. Maximus and Sky took out their tokens and gave them to Cade. Core Student Token? Beast Saint Token? The identity of the two of you is indeed unusual, Cade commented. Like the Origin Arcana Institute, students are ranked as Seekers, Official, Special, and Core students. The Beast Continent also has ranks for its talented prodigies, from Beast Alpha, Beast Savant, Beast Paragon, Beast Saint, and Beast God. Soon, Cade processed the two tokens, inputting Abyss runes and a large volume of Abyss Origin. Seeing Cade effortlessly control Abyss energy, Maximus couldn't help but be envious. He had already copied Cade's physique and domain. However, he still couldn't fully control the Abyss energy like Cade. However, seeing the alchemy ring on Cade's finger, Maximus understood that it should be the Abyss Realm's innate treasure. Done. And now you too can use these tokens like you used to in the Ethereum realm, Cade said, giving the tokens back to them. Maximus quickly opened the token interface at Cade's instruction. Personal information. Abyss Realm Forum? Ethereum Abyss Bank. Mission Leaderboard. So it can connect wirelessly now, Maximus thought. From what Maximus read from Tintin's database, long-distance wireless connection in the Abyss had long been solved. Unfortunately, besides needing individuals born and raised in the Abyss, one also needed a special initiate treasure to control part of the Abyss origin. What Cade just did is reinforce the token to be of the same frequency as the Abyss realm. The reason for limiting the spread of this long-distance wireless communication is, of course, Abyss origin. Maximus estimated that the Abyss origin inputted by Cade just now was at least 100 trillion. Of course, if converted to crystal merit, with Ethereum realm origin greediness, it would be worth less than 1 trillion. How is it? What do you plan to do now? Cade asked with a smile. At first, go to Purgatory City and decide, Maximus said. A few days later, it was another annual exchange event. Before deciding, he wanted to exchange a large amount of crystal merits and some Abyss source. Although looking at the Tintin Abyss information database, Maximus also had a rough destination in mind. Then I wish you good luck. A few days later, in Purgatory City, Maximus and Sky split as usual, each doing their own thing. Maximus, coming to a familiar city, started to move. The shops were already marked, and their limit tolerance was also calculated. On the first day, he exchanged over 150 trillion. It seems like people got richer this year, Maximus thought. After exchanging the money, he changed his disguise again and roamed around collecting Tier 6 Abyss source. Much like the last time, he gathered hundreds of them. Finishing his shopping spree, he met up with Sky, who looked like she enjoyed herself with the trillion he gave her. Shall we go to the auction? Yes. In a familiar way, Maximus and Sky, like veterans, changed their disguises and entered the auction hall's supreme VIP room. As in the last event, Maximus didn't buy any miscellaneous treasures or resources. His only focus was the Abyss source. Unfortunately, it seemed that people in the VIP room had already learned their lessons from the last auction. Even with Maximus's unscrupulous attitude of getting the Abyss source regardless of the price, he only managed to obtain 5 of them, one less than last year. To this, Maximus just smiled. He could go to any other outpost afterward. By then, collecting Abyss source should be a cinch. A week later, after the annual exchange event. What outpost are we going to? Sky asked, looking at the various teleportation arrays. To the Eternal Ruin Outpost, Maximus said after thinking. Eternal Ruin Outpost? Are you crazy? Sky asked in shock, suppressing her voice. Eternal Ruin Outpost is the most dangerous and biggest outpost in the Purgatory layer. The end town is like a paradise in comparison. It's just right so you can train like a real warrior, Maximus smiled teasingly. Before, when he asked Sky which outpost had the most Abyss source, she mentioned the end town. However, to his disappointment, it indeed had a lot of Abyss source. Unfortunately, they were barely Tier 4 and Tier 5. Even after a year of non-stop searching, he found less than 10 Tier 6 Abyss sources, much less Tier 7 Abyss sources. As for the Eternal Ruin Outpost, that was the real frontline of the Purgatory layer. It was at the direct junction of the core and Purgatory layers. The outpost itself is not stationary like N-Town but a moving fortress. As for why? It was because abyss sources appeared endlessly like a glitch. Sometimes it would even penetrate the city's defensive barrier and an abyss source would directly summon inside the city. And these abyss sources appearing are not merely for show, Tier 7 abyss sources are the norm. Lightnovel occasionally, there are also Tier 8 abyss sources that need the 3 apex sovereigns permanently stationed in the fortress to take action. It can be said that all the people surviving and staying in the Eternal Ruin Outpost are either lunatics or super geniuses. Maximus thinks he can finally copy some heaven-defying domain or awakened physique in such a place. As for the N-Town, despite scanning all of its inhabitants, he can't find anything worthy of his attention. Besides Cade and the managers of various top guilds and organizations, no individual possesses an awakened physique. Meanwhile, Sky frowned after hearing Maximus took the Eternal Ruin Outpost lightly. Can we not go there? We can fight nonstop elsewhere if you want, Sky suggested, her expression filled with concern. 99% of her deaths in her previous life occurred in this place. It was indeed a paradise for the strong but also a graveyard for them. Sky didn't know how many geniuses were buried in that no man's land. This is also the very reason it was called Eternal Ruin Outpost. Geniuses upon geniuses, with the chance to attain eternity, lie buried like an eternal ruin in the ground. But no, the Eternal Ruin Outpost is just right for our current strength. If you don't want to go, I won't force you. I go then I will go, Sky nodded immediately and didn't say more. Ahem. Soon, the two walked toward the Eternal Ruin Outpost's teleportation array. Around were tens of thousands of others who looked different from the rest. Just getting near them, Maximus felt a murderous and indomitable aura. If it were a normal Tier 7 individual right now, they would probably break into a cold sweat due to the pressure. However, Maximus and Sky were like entering their home, relaxed and leisurely. Ayo? Another special rank this year? A man muttered, seeing the two. The Eternal Ruin Outpost is different from other outposts. It can only be entered by at least a guardian rank or those with special status. Looking at the two fresh faces that didn't seem to have soaked long enough on the battlefield, the man concluded that they had a special status. Probably some overconfident genius who hasn't seen much of the world. Ahihi, I bet these two will either die in the first week or come back crying in a few days. Don't underestimate them too much. Who knows if they were a wolf in sheep's clothing? So what? Who here isn't? The people surviving and still going to the Eternal Ruin Outpost are super geniuses of their time. Their will, soul, and body are forged with unending fire battle. Furthermore, most of them are already Tier 8. Thus, even if the two newbies are more talented than them, they are no match. Maximus and Sky, who heard all their jeering, didn't react. They stood in the teleportation array, waiting to be teleported. The array already sensed their tokens, so they didn't need to register or anything. Of course, Maximus wouldn't just dwindle here. Checking to see if any Apex Sovereign was hidden in the crowd, he commanded his system to start copying. All the domains and special physiques of the people in the teleportation array were copied. Looking at the 7 awakened special physiques he just copied, he couldn't help but smile. This is really a treasure trove. In just the first round, there was already a big harvest. Before he could check the description of the physique he had just copied, the man who was doubtful about their strength earlier approached them. Hello, I'm Yuso, the squad leader of Abyss Dragon Squad. I'm Maximus, and this is Sky, Maximus introduced. Judging by his figure, Yuso should be from the Dragon clan in the Beast continent. Furthermore, looking at his status panel, it seems he was one of the people from whom Maximus copied an awakened physique. Yuso Dragonfist, Tier 8. Dragon Body Law 45. Domain, Forbidden Domain. Physique, Abyss Dragon Body Heaven. Chapter 247 showing some strength. You two be sentinels who were given special status? Yuso asked. Maximus, who had read the description about Yuso's law, domain, and physique, also nodded. That's right, we just came to the Abyss realm this year, Maximus said truthfully. There is no hiding about these things. Just a little inquiry and one could know a lot about their identities. You two are indeed freaks, Yuso's eyes lit up as he confirmed his guess. No normal people would willingly go to the Eternal Ruin Outpost if they were not confident in their strength. In such a place, the death rate of a normal individual is as high as 99.99% in just the first year. Since you two are beginners in the Eternal Abyss Outpost, why not join our squad? Yuso asked. Yuso's favorites are these geniuses who are confident in their strength.
Are
there any benefits? Maximus asked. A squad is a formal group formed by individuals besides guilds and organizations. Although he was not planning to join such a squad, Maximus still respected the opportunity to make a connection. It will be easier if he buys Abyss sources from them later. Once you join us, your safety and interests will be bound to our squad. Thus, in the Eternal Ruin Outpost, you are guaranteed, Yuso said with sincerity. He can't promise anything to the two besides these. Their squad is a mercenary, there are no unique resources to change, no discounts to be made, no missions and tasks to do, etc. The only thing they can do is protect each other's safety while earning money from killing Abyss monsters. Kids, don't bother listening to this fool. Safety is the least of your concerns once you join this muscle-head. Suddenly, a man interrupted their discussion. You should join us, Abyssal Twilight Squad. At least we can ensure your safety, Dart invited. Dart. What are you saying? Yuso asked angrily. Captain Yuso, stop wasting your time fooling newcomers. It'd be a waste to follow you, Dart rolled his eyes.
What do you mean?
Yuso flared up, ready to attack. Maximus on the scene just stood silently, looking with interest, while he scanned Dart's status. Der Twilight, Tirnolz. Law of Range, 45%. Domain, Critical Insight. Physique, Abyssal Focalisation, Even. Reading the description of law, domain, and physique, Maximus couldn't help but sigh. It is indeed a man who teased a dragon. If Yuso had an invincible body, then Dart had an invincible range. Yuso's physique, abyssal dragon body, and law grant him a nearly invulnerable body. The domain also puts out anything but physical strength. In the forbidden domain, spells, skills, techniques, and such were invalid, only physical strength could be used. As for Dart, his law is about range, a branch of space law and insight. Although the person who mastered it can't directly teleport, any item in their possession can. Arrows, stones, bullets, bombs, any projectile that he can get his hands on. With insight, Dart almost has an unlimited range. As for abyssal focalization, it's a special physique that focuses all your power at one point. Although it seems simple, the power of this physique is heaven-defying. A peak tier 8 powerhouse strength on one point, even an apex sovereign wouldn't leave unscratched. Much more for him, he had unlimited mana as long as he waited long enough, no one could withstand his power. Regarding the domain, it was also such a useful physique. This thing can give you weaknesses in all things, from everyday objects to the strongest enemies. Although his origin domain can see everything at its very origin, he still needs to study them to tell its weaknesses. While Maximus was looking at Dart's status panel, Yuso and Dart came to a heated argument as they flared up their aura. Enough, you two. Don't you see that the one you are fighting for is not interested? A man who seemed stronger interrupted the brewing fight. Yuso and Dart turned their attention to Maximus as their anger flared up. The abyss energy seemed to surge as the space surrounding Maximus became chaotic. Seeing the anger of the two shift into him, Maximus could only smile wryly. Nice to meet you again. I'm Maximus, Maximus introduced as he flared up his mana. A surge of energy stabilized the surrounding space as the abyss energy returned to normal. The scene suddenly became peaceful, like a picture scene. Many watching the excitement were a little shocked after Maximus released his aura. Although it was a little weaker than Yuso and Dart, Maximus's control was on another level. Maximus deflected Yuso and Dart's aura using a weaker strength to equalize the pressure and stabilize the space around him. Although this kind of control is feasible, it is only possible if you have precise control of the law. However, seeing Maximus do it so effortlessly, they couldn't help but rub their eyes to see if they were hallucinating. You're quite good, kid, the man who reminded Yuso and Dart said. It's nothing, Maximus said respectfully, seeing the status panel of the one who just talked. Lord Gildart, tier opt. Law of Strength, 99%. Domain, Will of Power. Physique, Will of Power Heaven. Maximus didn't care about his progression of law. Even if Lord just needed 1% more to reach Apex Sovereign. The moat he needed to cross was harder than crossing Tier 1 to Tier 8 with 99% control of the law. What he was respectful of was that Lord Gerdart possessed pure strength with pure will. The law of strength, as suggested, is just the power of strength, which is one of the major laws. For the domain and physique, it is the will of power. It is the weakest and strongest when it comes to power. Basically, your power is equivalent to your will. If you think you're invincible, then you are invincible. If you think your fist can crush the opponent, then your fist can destroy your opponent. If Lore believes he can never be defeated, then he can never be defeated. Maximus still had respect for such a man. Meanwhile, Lore looked at Maximus with a bit of admiration. You're not humble at all. Gyuso and Dart are already at the top of Eternal Ruin Outpost. Saying you deflected their strength like nothing, it seems that you would survive Eternal Ruin Outpost just fine, Lore commended. Maximus just nodded as he saw the teleportation array light up. Meanwhile, Gyuso and Dart just looked at him thoughtfully. As for the previous anger, that was just a show. This is usually a test to initiate newcomers. If they can't even withstand their pressure and come running, then it's better for them not to come to Eternal Ruin Outpost. Such a weak will and strength can only drag them down instead of helping. However, they were still slightly surprised that Maximus deflected their strength like nothing. If not for feeling his strength weaker than theirs, they would even doubt if Maximus was an apex sovereign in disguise. Maximus also returned beside Sky and waited for the teleportation array to be fully initiated. The earlier fuss is just big entertainment for him. Now, for the main part, he looked at the other 4 awakened special physiques. Biocircuitry body, Heaven integrates biology and mechanics, granting the ability to interface with electronic devices, control machinery, and even merge with mechanical creations. Dreamweaver's body, Heaven allows entry into a dream, manipulation of dreams, and the power to bring elements of the dream world into reality. Necro-Undying, Heaven bestows control over life and death, granting the ability to raise the dead, drain life force, and resist mortal injuries. Tectonic Titan body, controls the forces of the earth, granting the ability to manipulate stone and soil, create earthquakes, and shape the terrain to their advantage. I am good enough, Maximus thought. Although it's a bit redundant, as he can do it with his cultivation skill and proficiency in spells. Having a physique will still multiply his power by a huge magnitude. Eternal Ruin Outpost. Looking at the massive fortress, Maximus finally felt the authentic atmosphere of the Abyss realm. The previous End Town and Purgatory City looked like a dilapidated town and a vacation spot, making him not feel the atmosphere of the Abyss. Now, looking at the thick walls, fully opened arrays, massive world-destroying weapons, flying troops on patrol, and people alert like a fully drawn bow, the contrast was stark. The people who had just teleported from Purgatory City also wiped out the ease on their faces. All around the city, people seemed to expect to be attacked at any time. You too should register, or the city's defense system will attack you, Lore advised. Some Abyss monsters with intelligence disguise themselves and raid the outpost from time to time. Thus, the Eternal Ruin Outpost is on tight strings all the time. One moment, the friend you were talking to could be an Abyss monster ready to devour you. We got it, Maximus nodded. Looking at the threatening gigantic weapons concentrated on them, he couldn't help but feel a chill. They would probably be bombarded if they were not in the teleportation array. Maximus and Sky quickly took out their tokens and placed them in the pillar in the middle of the teleportation array. As the pillars lit up, the gigantic weapons aimed at them re-aimed outside the stronghold. Chapter 248 Abyss Tide. Did you finish the registration? Lore asked, seeing the pillar lit up. Bam. How about I show you around? Lore suggested. He couldn't help but feel goodwill toward this talented junior. Even under the bombardment of people stronger than him, he still remained undeterred. As for Sky, Lore was also interested. Throughout all the exchanges earlier, her face didn't change one bit, as if it were just the wind passing by. Sure, we also wanted to have a place to live, Maximus nodded. Then let's find a place for you to stay first, Lore invited. Walking around, Lore talked about various aspects of the Eternal Ruin Outpost. You may already know this, but the Eternal Ruin Outpost is a moving stronghold. As we are in the most dangerous part of the Abyss realm, we need to be constantly moving, otherwise, we will be ambushed by Abyss monsters. The Abyss monsters we encounter here are a bit different from the usual. Some of them have frightening intelligence, some have overwhelming strength, some multiply quickly, some can't be killed, etc. There are so many types of Abyss monsters here that an encyclopedia of Abyss monsters was produced. Thus, besides the normal classification of Abyss monsters as cannon fodder, normal, elite, and lord, Abyss monsters are also divided into 3 types: elemental types, physical types, and special types. The elemental types are Abyss monsters possessing the power of elements, whether it be thunder, fire, earth, or even space and time. As for physical types, they exhibit various body modifications beyond common sense. Like the humongous abyss monster there, Lore suddenly stopped as his eyes bulged. Damn, another attack?
Lore cursed.
The humongous abyss monster, multiple times bigger than their stronghold, was running toward them.
Is this normal?
Maximus asked with a smile. He already knew about different types of abyss monsters. He just let Lore talk to become familiar with the place. What he didn't expect was an aberrant humongous type Lord-level abyss monster came attacking just as they arrived. And not always, just once or twice a month, Lore said helplessly. As the junction within the source layer and purgatory layer, they encountered abyss monster attacks from time to time. However, it seems that this time they were unlucky. This was already the third time they were attacked this month. You too are unlucky, you encounter this abomination on your first day, Lore sighed. Ahahaha, isn't it just a warm welcome? Maximus smiled. Ahihi, an aberrant lord-level monster, what a feast. Sky on the side also smiled. Anyway, you two do your best to survive.
Bang!
As soon as Lore said that, the aberrant lord-level monster banged into the stronghold barrier.
Bang! Bang! Bang!
The continuous banging was quickly depleting the magic crystal power supply. However, it seems that the aberrant lord-level abyss monster knew it was futile and came with a new approach. Instead of banging indiscriminately as it previously did, it concentrated its strength into a single point and tried to open a small gap in the stronghold barrier.
Ready? Iron Squad assemble. Lore yelled.
Soon, the people who seemed to be squad members of Lore gathered together. Meanwhile, Maximus and Sky also got ready and concentrated on the abyss monster. The gigantic weapons on the wall also finished charging and locked the abyss monster. Boom! 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 Unfortunately, there was not much effect. Although the giant weapons made multiple holes in the abyss monster, it recovered rapidly. The abyss monster seems to be annoyed by the barrage as it becomes more manic attacking the stronghold barrier. Soon under its effort, it opened a small gap in the barrier. The abyss monster then spread a tentacle-like part of its body and put it inside the gap. Then, like sand, it disintegrated, forming thousands of abyss monsters. This lord-level abyss monster is an aggregation of abyss monsters. So, as soon as it broke through the barrier, it broke into pieces little by little, sending abyss monsters to cause destruction. Soon, millions of Tier 8 abyss monsters flooded the stronghold. Fortunately, after the aberrant lord-level abyss monster broke into pieces, it was only cannon fodder rank. Otherwise, with the millions of residents of the stronghold mostly Tier 7, there would probably be a lot of casualties. As the abyss monster came close to them, Maximus tried one of his special techniques.
Ice Bolt.
Focusing his strength on a single point, the ice bolt blasted the Tier 8 abyss monster into particles. What a nice ability. He just concentrated milliseconds of his mana, yet it achieved such an effect. He wondered what would happen if he concentrated days or years of his mana and fired it up. It should be able to kill an apex sovereign, right? He thought. However, looking at the special physique who was recovering the power of law, he dismissed his thought. Let's try the other physiques. Maximus smiled joyfully as he found new toys. He didn't worry a bit that he was too high-profile. Looking around him, who is not more high-profile at this moment? Like Lore on his side, who eliminated thousands of abyss monsters just with the shockwave of his fist. Even that insane Yuso, that stupid muscle head plugged into the hole created by the abyss monsters, defending with just his body. Even Dart looked casually as he and his squad fired thousands of projectiles every second, talking like it was a normal day. There were also those with almost full control of law and special physique. It seemed that the aberrant lord-level monster was just a warm-up for them. Soon, Maximus and Sky also started to show off. Maximus tried the newly copied domain and physique one after another. Pile and pile of abyss monsters automatically came to him like good test subjects. As for Sky, she didn't have such concerns. Like a wild Amazonian, she burst through the center of the abyss monsters like it was her home court. Looking at the two newcomers easily going through the motions, Lore and the others who just come back from Purgatory City were a little shocked. "You kid, you've hidden a lot of strength," Lore said, coming to him.
"It's nothing."
"As you said, this abyss monster is really like a warm welcome to you," Lore shook his head and insisted. "Also, your friend is a bit wild," Lore added. Sky didn't have it as easy as Maximus, her body was already riddled with injuries. Even with the origin domain potent with regeneration, it can't keep up. However, Sky's fighting intent seemed to become higher and higher as time went on. "It's just a little battle maniac," Maximus commented. "Ago, it seems to be," Lore also understood. After all, many of them were also battle maniacs. Unfortunately, it won't be long before they die or are seriously injured and quit. Among all, Yuso seemed to be the toughest battle maniac he knew. Just seeing him almost challenge the aberrant Lord-level monster on his own, Lore sighed. "Just be careful, this is the first wave of attack," Lore reminded and came back to his squad.
I know.
The millions of abyss monsters causing chaos in the city are just the first wave. Otherwise, it can't be called a Lord-level monster at all. Looking at it slowly peeling away the stronghold barrier for its own entry, Maximus knew the real fight would begin. Roar! The abyss monster roared excitedly as it got inside. Although it was a little smaller earlier, it's still 1,000th of the size of the stronghold. Tier 7 and weaker Tier 8 individuals, like muscle memory, escaped to a safe place. Houses, buildings, and different structures were destroyed as the abyss monster attacked. Soon, tens of thousands of Tier 8 individuals with their own squads attacked the abyss monster in a relay. Every movement of the abyss monster seemed to be predicted. As the group of squads parried the attack and another attacked various weak spots. Although they looked like ants compared to the abyss monster. The abyss monster was like a fish trapped in a net. Maximus was on the sideline, watching the fight. As it was his first day, his performance earlier should be enough. He also dragged Sky, who still wanted to fight, beside him. As the fight went on, Maximus frowned. After a few hours, the aberrant Lord-level abyss monster is still alive. As it gets destroyed and regenerated, the abyss energy around seems like a bug helping the Lord-level abyss monster continue to struggle. It seems that he underestimated the danger of these monsters. While the fight was going on, he always scanned and copied the domain and physique of most of the people in the stronghold. Regarding this, he copied over 20 awakened physiques. Reading these people's statuses gave him an idea of how strong people here truly were. There were hundreds of people here who had 99% control of their law. Thousands had over 70% control of law. As for the rest who were still fighting the Lord-level abyss monster, it was not lower than 30. Yet a few hours passed and the abyss monster still showed resistance. Maximus estimated that if he singled out this abyss monster, although he would not lose, he would not defeat it either. Abyss Realm is really not easy. Chapter 249 Loot Share. After a few more hours of fighting, the Lord-level abyss monster was finally eliminated. Ahahaha, what a harvest! A Tier 7 Lord-level abyss source. Don't be too happy, there are too many of us and we can't earn much. A tisk, it's still a few hundred billion in one take. Tens of thousands of people who had just eliminated the Lord-level abyss monster laughed in celebration. The abyss monster they just killed didn't just provide crystal merits but also an abyss source. Usually, an abyss source is an abyss monster producing load. But in this part of the abyss, they were directly embedded into some abyss monster. Like the monster they killed, it contained a Tier 7 Lord-level abyss source. Even with around 25,000 of them, they could still earn over 400 to 500 billion. Of course, the millions of others who killed the Lord-level abyss monster clones also made contributions. They would get tens of millions to billions of contributions based on the abyss monster they just killed. Maximus, who was far away, also saw the crystal merits summoned after the abyss monster was killed. The abyss is really full of treasures. Maximus thought. The reason why he came to the Eternal Ruin Outpost is not just to buy abyss source but to get them himself. Although there is a lot of abyss source here, there is only a little in circulation. Moreover, most of them are at the low tier. Most higher tiers of abyss source from Tier 7 and above already had an owner. No matter how much money he offers, he can't buy much. Furthermore, it's too high profile even with a disguise. If he killed abyss monsters himself, then not only does it ensure secrecy, but he can also be as unscrupulous as he wants. After discussing how to distribute the loot, Lore approached them. How much is your contribution? I will get your loot for you, Lore offered. Maximus took out their token and opened the Ethereum Ruin Outpost contribution tab. After registering earlier, their token was already bound, so every abyss monster they killed in the stronghold would give them corresponding contribution points. This was also how much they would get in the loot. 6 million, Maximus answered. Mine's only 4.8 million for me, Sky said sadly. Alright, that would be 6 billion and 4.8 billion worth of crystal merits. Lore smiled and gave them the crystal merits. It's really easy to earn money here, as Sky said joyfully. In the N-Town Outpost, even if she got all out, she can only get a few billion per month. Now, after slaying a Tier 8 Abyss monster, she earned billions of crystal merits from just one fight. For Tier 7 individual, as long as they were brave, they could earn their ticket out of the Abyss realm in just tens of thousands of years. For a being with a lifespan of a few million years, that's already a good deal. Unfortunately, much less 1,000 years, they can't probably survive here in just a few decades.
How is it easy?
Loreside is looking at over half of the city in devastation. This was just a Tier 8 Lord-level Abyss monster with a Tier 7 Lord-level Abyss source. If stronger ones came, they probably wouldn't even stand a chance against it. Fortunately, most of the buildings in the stronghold were just impromptu buildings that could be built quickly with magic. As long as the core of the stronghold was not destroyed, there was no problem. Under various instructions from top squads, the stronghold was rebuilt in just a few hours. A week later, in a newly bought mansion, Maximus leisurely sat down after completing all his preparations. From the house, official registration, mapping the place, socializing with various top squads, analyzing the markets, etc. This week was so busy that his feet never left the ground.
What do we do now?
Sky asked, looking bored. After the Lord-level Abyss monster was killed and the loots were split, the stronghold rested in place for 3 days. Unfortunately, Maximus and Sky were newcomers, so they didn't have the opportunity to leave the stronghold and kill some Abyss monsters. After all, it was impossible to exit from a moving stronghold that was traveling at high speed. Once they left, they might never be able to come back. We just wait until the second stop, Maximus said. He couldn't do anything about it either. The stronghold only stops when it kills the strongest Abyss monster within a certain radius. Like the one that attacked them a week ago. Usually, such a strong Abyss monster was already the strongest within millions of kilometers. Thus, stopping the stronghold for a few days was feasible. Not only can they mine higher-tier resources in this window of opportunity, they can also kill weaker Abyss monsters, hoping they can drop an Abyss source. Aha, so boring, Sky said, lying down and looking at the dark sky. Just train in the arena outside if you're bored. You can also bet some money and earn some pocket money, Maximus suggested.
That's right. Fighting plus pocket money, what a great thing. Ahihi, see you later.
Sky didn't think it through further and exited the mansion. What a battle maniac, Maximus could only shake his head and smile wryly. The battle arena was just as suggested, a platform for people in the stronghold to vent their accumulated stress and further train their fighting abilities. Besides the arena, there was also a casino, clubs, betting grounds, etc. Since the stronghold was moving most of the time, various forms of entertainment became prevalent. As for Maximus, he didn't have time for that. While waiting for the stronghold to stop, he tried to combine space, barriers, breakers, and such to return to the Ethereum realm. He really missed his family. Although it had only been over a year, looking at the endless darkness in the sky, he felt it was an eternity. I wonder how they are doing. A week later. Boom. 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 Maximus, who was trying to combine the copied physique and domain, heard the booming sounds. Is the Abyss monster finally here? Maximus smiled. Getting out of the mansion, he saw meteors of fire bombarding the stronghold barrier. An elemental-type Lord-level Abyss monster? Maximus estimated. A TSK, how great. Unfortunately, it's not mine. The Abyss source spawned by this Lord-level Abyss monster would never be his, even if he could afford it. The Abyss source harvested in the stronghold was already assigned to the 3 Apex sovereigns guarding the stronghold. They could only get paid for their due work and contribution. Even those peak Tier 8 individuals who usually kill the Lord-level Abyss monsters attacking their city couldn't get this. It was all monopolized by the Apex sovereigns guarding the stronghold. Otherwise, if the Abyss source were freely distributed, how could there be less than 100 people who could awaken their physique? Although the Abyss source is no longer needed to strengthen their realm or awaken their physique, Abyss source was a potent recourse to strengthen their control of law. They wouldn't even share this kind of resource if they were not worried about accumulating backlash. However, most people didn't find it weird or overbearing. They felt it was only natural, as the strong can have everything. They could also set up a stronghold and collect Abyss sources if they had the guts. Furthermore, these apex sovereigns were the only reason the stronghold still exists. They were the confidence of the people in the stronghold that even if trouble stirred, they could still keep it safe. Watching the fire elemental lord-level abyss monster, Maximus stayed in place. Although flame abyss monsters were also coming in, he was not as enthusiastic as when he had just arrived. Just a few billion crystal merits, he felt that it was a waste of effort. As for Sky, that battle maniac, she had already plunged through the sea of flames, fighting with the abyss monsters. Fortunately, the leader was being suppressed by others, so she was not affected. Taking out a recliner and a few snacks, he watched the whole ordeal like a movie. While his domain silently disintegrated, the few abyss monsters who were coming his way. A few hours later, Maximus looked at the fall of the Lord-level abyss monster and the newly spawned Tier 7 abyss source. Finally, time to collect abyss source outside, Maximus thought as he stood up. The stronghold might only stop here for 3 to 5 days, so he must manage his time well.
Maximus! There you are!
Sky said, finding him. I've been here the entire time, Maximus answered nonchalantly.
Oh, so what about it?
Sky just rolled her eyes, looking at the snack on the table and the clean figure of Maximus. Sky figured that this bastard didn't fight at all but just watched on the sidelines.
Do you want to come with me outside? Do we fight outside now?
Sky asked excitedly. Although the abyss monster attacking the stronghold was strong, she couldn't exert her full strength. Like Maximus, she also didn't want to show off too much.
It's time to fight outside.
Chapter 250 Abyss Source Harvest. On the exit ground of the stronghold, millions of individuals, after cleaning the stronghold, registered to exit the outpost.
A name?
Vizrit. Remember the stronghold will only stay here for 4 days.
What about the radius limit?
300,000 kilometri.
Next.
Soon, one by one, they registered as they fearlessly exited the stronghold. After killing the fire elemental lord-level abyss monster, no other stronger abyss monsters should roam within the 300,000 kilometer radius. For them, this is a chance to earn resources. Unlike other places in the abyss, this junction between the core and purgatory layer is a true treasure paradise. Rare resources can be found with just a scan of your eyes. The abyss origin released by each abyss monster is multiplied by multiple folds, making them earn more crystal merits for killing abyss monsters. Unique chances that can change their faith can be found with a bit of luck. It can be said that this place is a paradise for the strong. Whatever you want, as long as your strength is strong enough, you can find it in this place. Exiting the stronghold, Maximus and Sky look around. The abyss aura in here is much thicker than the mana in the origin domain, as Sky muttered. After all, the abyss is a much stronger dimension, Maximus nodded. The Ethereum realm is only a dimension possessing over 1,000 elements. Although the abyss realm they were in was only part of the abyss dimension, it also possessed over 100,000 elements. Earlier, because of the protection of the stronghold array, they barely felt the abyss aura. But outside, they felt the viscous abyss aura ready to devour everything. Fortunately, with the foundation and physique of the two, this kind of devouring is nothing. But for other individuals, even if they put up a protection barrier, their mana consumption would be accelerated.
So what's the plan?
Sky asked. Find some strong-looking abyss monster, I guess, Maximus thought and said. Not all abyss monsters in this place had an abyss source in them. The chance of that happening is slim and depends on luck. As for finding an abyss source from a load-producing abyss monster? That's not advisable. The power that an abyss source can produce in this place is no joke. Even a normal quality abyss source can exert the strength of an elite quality abyss source with the thickness of abyss energy in place. Maximus was not sure if he could survive that unscratched. It's also a waste of time even if he could.
Do we still need to separate?
There is no need, Maximus shook his head. This part of the abyss is dangerous, he doesn't want Sky to have any problems. Anyway, sooner or later, they would be husband and wife. There should be no problem showing some power. Then let's quickly find our target, Sky smiled and clung to him. A few hours later. With Maximus using his system to scan for an abyss source, they finally found their target. I'll leave it to you, Maximus said, pointing to the abyss monster.
A
Tier 7 elite abyss monster? Sky smiled, not knowing why Maximus was so serious. With her current strength, she can even kill a Tier 8 elite abyss monster. A mere Tier 7 elite abyss monster was nothing. Be careful, Maximus reminded on the side. However, it seemed that Sky didn't listen to him. Confidently coming in front of the abyss monster, Sky thought that he could quickly kill the abyss monster. However, to her shock, a giant hand made out of unknown metal swatted her to the ground. I told you, Maximus muttered helplessly. Ahem. That's just because I'm not ready. Sky stood up as she removed the dust. She didn't think that this seemingly weak abyss monster had such strong strength. She wondered how Maximus pinpointed this abyss monster to know it was different. However, looking at the abyss monster that seems to mock her, a fighting intent flashed into her eyes.
Adi.
This time, Sky was more cautious, observing every movement of the abyss monster. With each exchange of spells and attacks, Sky quickly put the abyss monster at a disadvantage. However, it seemed that the abyss monster was an unkillable bug. Even under numerous bombardments, it can still move alive and well. While they were fighting, Maximus also set up a barrier array formation. With the abyss source in the abyss monster, it could not die unless the support of the abyss aura is depleted. Although his domain can also eliminate any energy, the range is only a few kilometers. Looking at the fight between Sky and the abyss monster that devastated the land. A few kilometers are simply not enough. Fortunately, with proficiency and ready-made materials, it only took Maximus a few minutes to put on the array ranging within a 100-kilometer radius. Sky also noticed the change in the abyss aura around and grinned. Ahihi, you're finished. Sky licked her lips. Using her full power, she strangled the abyss monster until it couldn't move and bombarded it with various high-tiered skills. As the abyss aura around depleted, the abyss monster's regeneration also slowed down. Soon, it disintegrated until there was only an abyss source left.
Oh, what a satisfying fight.
Sky's fighting intent soared as she hoped there was more. She didn't mind fighting as long as it was exciting. Using every skill and arsenal, she wouldn't get bored. Nice, it seems that your skill has become more solid, Maximus praised. This is also thanks to you, Sky muttered as she took his arm. The origin cultivation skill that Maximus gave to her was really a game-changer. Now, she is not only short on battery, even her sensitivity and skill were amplified. It's nothing, Maximus shook his head. It's only natural to give your family whatever good you have. Taking the abyss source, he smiled. A normal quality Tier 7 abyss source. In just a few hours, he obtained a Tier 7 abyss source. This is equivalent to 100 million system points daily. Of course, the huge credit for this goes to his system. Otherwise, if you're unlucky, you may not even find an abyss monster with an abyss source, even if you stay here for a few years. Furthermore, blindly fighting with abyss monsters is seeking a death wish. Who knew if the abyss monster that looked weak a second ago could transform into a world-destroying monster? Cool. A few 100 trillion was quickly added to the bag. Sky's eyes lit up. She didn't care about the abyss source, she only cared about money. Alright, as a reward, I'll give you 1 trillion crystal merit for your share.
A what?
Only 1 trillion? Sky looked at him like he was a cheapskate. This is only your allowance anyway. Furthermore, we would not sell this thing. I need it, Maximus explained. Oh, then that's fine, Sky nodded in understanding. Although she didn't know why Maximus needed the abyss source, she didn't care much. Then let's find more abyss monsters. For days later, in Eternal Ruin's stronghold, Maximus and Sky came back to the stronghold. Looking at the injured and dilapidated appearance of others, Maximus and Sky were quite conspicuous. They were clean and bright, as if they hadn't entered a dangerous battlefield. Who are they? Could it be that they are lucky and didn't encounter any danger? I heard they are newcomers, maybe this is beginner's luck. Oh, what newbies? I bet they just stayed on the periphery and didn't harvest much. It seems so, TSK, what cowards. The crowd discussed among themselves as they saw Maximus and Sky. Even the top-tier squad was full of injuries and desolation. How can they not doubt Maximus and Sky, who were bright and clean? What they didn't know was that Maximus navigated the abyss with the system, so they didn't encounter any unexpected danger. Furthermore, with their strength, they were also equivalent to the top-tier squad. Coupled with his unlimited mana, their state can be maintained at max at all times. Not minding the chatter of the crowd, Maximus and Sky quickly flew back to their residence. In the mansion? Sky looked at Maximus excitedly as she tabulated how much crystal merits she would get. There are 33 Tier 6 Abyss sources. There are 3 normal quality Tier 7 Abyss sources. For Tier 6 Abyss sources, she can get 1 billion. For every normal quality Tier 7 Abyss source, she can get 1 trillion. That means I get over 3 trillion crystal merits. Sky said happily. You sure counted carefully, a Maximus teased. Of course, this is my allowance, how can I not count it? What are you even gonna buy with it? Maximus said in puzzlement. All the training resources were already provided by him. Sky also had no worries about food and clothing. Although they can directly absorb crystal merit to increase strength, a few trillion is barely enough. I just want to experience the feeling of being rich, Sky reasoned. Thinking of buying whatever she wanted, she couldn't help but smile. Although she may not be that extravagant, it's still good to think about it. Oh, then you better spend money carefully, Maximus said, handing him her share. Looking at the mountain of crystal merit in her storage ring, the smile on Sky's face widened. Satisfied now? Satisfied.